Hey now, shooting from the camera. It's not a pickup video, but I'm going to show off some autograph video. I should have some pickups actually this weekend. They're having like the biggest show here in Detroit. It's the biggest show they've had in a really long time here. So I'm going there Saturday and Sunday. I'm excited for that show. But I wanted to talk a little about the Negro Leagues. Obviously, it's been a couple of weeks now since the Negro Leagues were integrated into Major League Baseball officially. I mean, it's great. I really thought it was great from a long time. I think a lot of collectors like myself have been hoarding certain Negro League autographs whenever we can find one. So I just wanted to show them off today. And what I want to show off today are not Negro Leaguers in the Hall of Fame. These are all the Negro Leaguers I could find that I thought even were worthy of consideration for the Hall of Fame. And I just think I mean, some of them have traded hands recently at really high prices. I think Negro League players are coming back into the forefront. It should be interesting Hall of Fame ballot this year because the Veterans Committee will be considering the Negro Leagues again. So it's very interesting timing. We have the Cardinals playing the Giants at Birmingham, Alabama for a Major League game. I'm really excited for that as well. But I guess in the meantime, let's look at some autographs, and probably none of these guys you have heard of. So if you can make it through this video, give yourself an award. So I'm going to show us a lot of Negro Leaguers. Again, these are not Hall of Famers, but these are Negro Leaguers that have a chance, let's say, to make the Hall of Fame. This is what I have in my collection. There are others out there that I don't have that I wish I had, like Josh Donaldson and all that. But let's see what I do have. So the first one I'm going to show is this right here. This is a beat-up postcard from a player named, got it, Pelayo Chacon. Who's Pelayo Chacon? I got to be honest, I never heard of the guy. But in 1952, the Pittsburgh Courier, which was a major Negro League newspaper, ranked all the best not Hall of Famers, Negro League players of all time. And they rated this guy the 5th best shortstop of all time. So I think Popeye was probably number 1. But like, he was rated number 5. I never heard of the guy. And his autograph, there's probably only 3 or 4 that existed that came out of Cuba. As you can see, this guy died in obscurity in, where was he die? He died in Venezuela in the like early 1970s, late 1960s. So do I think I'm making the Hall of Fame? No, but it's such a rare and obscure autograph. When I saw it up for sale a couple of years ago, I just had to grab it. So Pelayo Chacon. The next one we're going to do here, and I did take notes about these players just because like I don't want to cheat here. So the next one, again, these are no order. This guy right here is Sam Bankhead. You can see right here. This is just on an index card. Sam Bankhead, I wrote this down, 8-time All-Star. So we talked about that Pittsburgh Courier poll. So he was voted the #1 utility player of all time in all the Negro Leagues. And I think he's the only player that was voted the greatest of all in any position that is not in the Hall of Fame right now. I could be wrong, but I think I am right in that in terms of players. There's managers and coaches like Dizzy DeMukes, but in terms of players, 8-time All-Star, #1 utility hitter in that Pittsburgh poll that we just talked about. He was also the first black manager in professional baseball. He managed like a Class D level. I'm not talking like Buck O'Neil coach at the Major League level. I think Ernie Banks was actually the first coach, Negro League coach, but on a Major League level. But at any professional level, it was Sam Bankhead. What else? The movie Fences with Denzel Washington. If you ever saw that, that is rumored to be about Sam Bankhead because he was a garbage driver after his retirement in the Negro Leagues. Another guy here, Ted Page. Again, PSA. He died in the 80s. I believe he was shot to death. Yeah. So he was a great outfielder. He was even a better leadoff hitter. Some people consider him the second greatest leadoff hitter of all time. He has a .335 lifetime average. Now, again, these averages are skewed, obviously, but I thought that was pretty interesting. Cool Papa Bell lobbied really hard after Cool Papa Bell's induction to get Ted Page into the Hall of Fame. So if Cool Papa Bell thinks you're a Hall of Famer, I mean, that says something. So I thought, interesting, right? Why not get him up if I can see it? Autograph, not terribly rare, excuse me. Another guy right here, again, this is real, another index card, Webster McDonald here. What do I have about Webster McDonald? He did get votes in that Pittsburgh Courier poll for the greatest pitcher of all time. Connie Mack thought also he's one of the greatest pitchers he's ever seen. He was part of 8 championship teams and 3 World Series. And he was a 8 championships, 8 pennant-winning championships, 2 Negro League World Series championships, and 3-time All-Star. So yeah, like most of you probably know this, but they had the East-West game, which is basically the Negro League version of the All-Star game, and he got elected 3 times. Next we have, this was a national pickup last year, Emmett Ashford, signed postcard. Do I have anything on Emmett Ashford that I want to say? So yeah, first of African-American umpire. He was just beloved. And like a lot of people talk about breaking barriers. Emmett Ashford broke the Negro League barrier in terms of umpires. Is that good enough to get in the Hall of Fame? I don't know. A lot of people say the Hall of Fame doesn't need any more umpires. Forget Joe West, you know what I'm saying? Let alone Emmett Ashford, you know? So, but it was one of those, like, he did break a barrier, and you never know. I mean, you never know when those 15 people get in a room what they think. So, moving on. Next one is a government postcard of Quincy Troop. Again, let's see. All I have about him is an 8-time All-Star, which is a lot. I mean, so again, his autograph, not terribly rare. You see it out there. I think he died in the late 70s, early 1980s. So what do we have next here? Bill Wright. You can see Bill Wright lived a pretty long time. So what do I have here about Bill Wright? He was on Monty Irvin, Hall of Famer Monty Irvin. His all-time team, Bill Wright was there as his #1 pitcher. He was a 9-time not pitcher. I dropped that. Not a pitcher. He was a 9-time All-Star. He had a 325 lifetime average. He was called the Black Joe DiMaggio, including batting over 400 twice. What's interesting about Bill Wright is he moved to Mexico, lived in Mexico his whole life. They couldn't really find him. And then in like 1991, they found him for a Cooperstown reunion. He came up and he signed a bunch of these cards here. So, I mean, his autograph, because he signed all these cards, excuse me, it doesn't make it terribly rare, but before that, I mean, his autograph was probably almost impossible because he was very tough to locate. Moving on here, someone that's more likely to get in the Hall of Fame. I'm not saying he's going to get in, but more likely. Chet Brewer. This is a Chet Brewer signed check. These are, died in like, I want to say the early 90s, late 80s. These checks have gone up in value. I think I paid $250 for mine. I was pretty happy about that, to be honest. What did I have notes about Chet Brewer? Satchel said he belonged in the Hall of Fame. So Satchel Paige says he belongs in the Hall of Fame. That could be. He has top 20 wins all time in the Negro League's Hall of Fame. He played 18 seasons with the Monarchs. He had 127 wins, and that's a lot. 127 documented wins. If you go back and you look at all the Negro League records and what they've actually can confirm as a game, because there's not a lot of games in the season that are quote-unquote official games. They did a lot of barnstorming against teams that were not, let's say, up to Negro League par. So 127 wins is a lot. 3 times he won 30 games or more in a season. So that's it with that one. That's what we got here. This is sort of like, I'm not going to go into these. This is an Upper Deck celebration. Who signed here? Andy Porter, Henry Kimbo, Buck O'Neil, who's now in the Hall of Fame, Verdell Mathis, Buck Leonard, and Ted Double Duty Radcliffe. I mean, when I was like in the 90s, like Ted Double Duty Radcliffe, probably, and Buck Leonard, those were the guys. And Ted, like anyone with a double duty name, like you think, oh my God, the name alone belongs in the Hall of Fame. So Ted Double Duty Radcliffe, 6-time All-Star, great catcher. He was voted in 2002 to be the most deserving Negro League catcher not in the Hall of Fame. And Buck O'Neil agreed with that. He's estimated to have 4,000 hits. Now, again, when I say 4,000 hits, that's not against Negro League pitching. I'll make that very clear. Lifetime 303 average. And I have right here 1943. I don't know what I have here, but say 303 average as well. So who knows? So he's in here. I mean, everyone that's my age that was getting autographs in the 90s heard of Double Duty Radcliffe. He caught one game, pitched another. So, like, they talk about Ohtani, how he can pitch and catch in the same game. Not pitch and catch, I'm sorry, pitch and hit in the same game. There were other players prior to Ohtani in the Negro Leagues. Bill Rogan, Double Duty Radcliffe, who are like the precursor to Ohtani. So it did happen. Ohtani is not the first, although obviously he's the most relevant given how well he's doing. So this is kind of a cool piece. I'm not saying this guy's going to be the Hall of Famer at all. This is New Joseph. He played in the very first Negro League World Series. What's cool is I bought this from the estate of his. I showed Steve Grad this piece, and this is the only autograph known of his at all to exist. He died in the 1960s. I'm trying to think if I put notes on him. I probably didn't. Real quickly about this piece, I wrote Bob Kendrick, who runs the Negro League Hall of Fame in Kansas City. And I said next time I'm there, I would donate this to the Hall of Fame. This is he owned a taxi cab company with Frank Duncan, who I'll talk about in a little bit. And this was his official taxi cab license for the Kansas City company, and signed right here in the bottom. So it's a really cool piece with this picture and everything. I saw this piece. I bought it for $400 at the Christie's auction. I bought it not thinking he'd be a Hall of Famer. I bought it just because I thought it was cool. So, speaking of Hall of Famers, if I had to guess one name that will make the Hall of Fame this year coming up from the Negro Leagues, it would be this autograph right here, Vic Harris. Vic Harris, I'm going to try him here. Sorry, also a 303 lifetime hitter, 7-time All-Star. Okay, he won 9 pennants, and now that the Negro League has been inducted in part of the major leagues, he has the highest winning percentage of any manager ever with at least 500 games. So, highest winning percentage ever for a manager. I mean, how do you not put the man in the Hall of Fame? He was up 3 years ago. They needed 12 votes for election. He got 10. So I really think, and there are no Hall of Fame managers from the Negro Leagues currently in the Hall of Fame. You could argue Rube Foster is, but he's also a pioneer. He was a pitcher, but there's no true managers. He's like the Joe Torre. I've said this in prior videos of the Negro Leagues. So, like I said, if I had to pick one person to get in the Hall of Fame this year, it would be this person, Vic Harris. So it's interesting to see what happens. Moving on. Again, no order. This is Newt Allen. This is a pretty cool letter from Newt Allen. It's dated in 1974. He wrote, I played in the first All-Star game that was played. I missed 2 games in the history of the Negro League All-Star games. He goes, I will write again, and I'll have print, blah, 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 blah. He says, I can't see any of those mentioned that should be left out of the Hall of Fame. So I don't know what names were mentioned. I wish I knew, but it's a beautiful letter, like I said, from Newt Allen. What do I have here about Newt Allen? So Buck O'Neil, you can look this up. He had a list of the greatest players of each position he thought belonged in the Hall of Fame. And as of today, every single one of those players is inducted in the Hall of Fame, except for one, Newt Allen at second base. So Buck O'Neil said he was the greatest player in the Negro Leagues that's not in the Hall of Fame. I have other notes right here. He was considered very similar to Judy Johnson, who was in the Hall of Fame. We talked about the Pittsburgh Courier poll. He was in the second team on that Courier poll for second base. John McGraw called him the finest infielder in baseball. So if John McGraw calls you the finest infielder in baseball, you're doing pretty good. So he died in the mid-70s. Jim Stinson just sold an autograph of his, I think, for $250 on an index card. So that just gives you an idea of what it's worth. Here's someone, William Bill Byrd. He died later on. He died fairly recently for all Negro Leaguers. Yeah, I see. It's tough to see there. Maybe that's a little bit better. Bill Byrd, 5-time All-Star pitcher. He's got the most All-Star appearances in the East-West Classic for anyone not in the Hall of Fame. So I thought that was interesting. He's top 3 total of wins of more than... he's top 10 in win-loss percentages and top 3 in wins that won more than 10 games in a season. He did that 7 times. So he's 7th all-time in that in the Negro Leagues. Very good player. I don't know if he's ever going to gain traction to get in the Hall of Fame. So again, next we have right here. This is a fairly recent pickup. I did a video about him, 1971. This person is Larry Brown. No, not to be confused with the Hall of Famer basketball Larry Brown. This Larry Brown, what can I say about this Larry Brown? We talked about Frank Duncan a little while ago. Frank Duncan caught more Negro League games than anybody else. But number 2 is Larry Brown. He's considered like, let's say, the Yadier Molina of his time. A great, great catcher. Great on defense. Okay hitter, though. 6-time All-Star. Ty Cobb saw him play and told him, because he was like very light-skinned, that maybe we can convince you to be a Cuban necessarily, or a Mexican, and not a Negro League player, but he had none of it. In 1971, when they put the first group together to vote on the Negro Leagues, when Satchel Paige got in, he got a lot of consideration as well, but he dropped out of that to be on the actual committee, is my understanding, to pick like Satchel Paige. But he definitely got consideration way back when they initially started considering people for the Hall of Fame. And One more, last but not least, Dave Millarcher, commonly known as Gentleman Dave. I bought this autograph for this beautiful letter. Gorgeous writing, gorgeous letter. I bought this for, I think, $125, and a cut of his just sold recently for $500. So, again, if they start putting Hall of Fame Major League managers into the Hall of Fame, Vic Harris will be number one. Dave Millarcher will probably be number two. Let's see. He was a 3-time pennant winner, and he took over for Rube Foster when Rube Foster had his mental breakdown. He's the one that took over for him. And, I mean, he won, I think I said he won 3 pennants, which I think is number 2 all-time in managers for most pennants in the Negro Leagues. Again, behind Vic Harris is, what did I say, 7 or 9? So that's all I got. So I hope you enjoy. I hope you learned something little. I hope you appreciate like everything that happened in the Negro Leagues. I'm very excited that it's integrated. I know there's a lot of controversy about it, but controversy could be good, especially for baseball. And I hope to actually show up a pickup video next. But I've been dropping and filming a lot of, so Addie Joss is going to drop next. So that'll drop on Saturday. And then hopefully a pickup video next week. So as always, if you're still here, hit the like button and keep collecting.